Hello and welcome to At the Capitol with Representative Andrew Falk. I'm Charlie Vanderarty. Welcome to the show.
Charlie, it's great to be with you again, and thank you to all of you for tuning in.
I know that the governor has released his budget, and right now we're looking at what different scenarios may be, but we haven't seen a budget from the Republicans. What do you anticipate their budget solution to be?
Well, one of the things the Republicans have committed to is an all-cuts budget. And so we're going to wait to figure out what that final number is, but back when the forecast was a $6.2 billion shortfall, they predicted they could get by with $32.4 or $32.5 billion. Now that the numbers have come in ever so slightly better, I think that the number might be $33.5 billion. But really, I want Minnesotans to see what a $6.2 billion cut to state services looks like. And so we want the Republicans to go and put their all-cuts budget on the table to really go and offer a very strong compare and contrast between what Governor Dayton offers and what they are offering. And I'm hopeful that we'll soon be able to see what that budget looks like. We've been waiting for a fair amount of time to really get a chance to go and look at what the Republican all-cuts budget is, and it has not yet materialized, but I'm hopeful it will show up in the ensuing weeks.
What do you think an all-cuts budget will do for jobs, specifically in your area in western Minnesota?
Well, an all-cuts budget is going to be very difficult to deal with, in my opinion. I think you need to have a balanced approach. You need to have some new revenue. Governor Dayton has proposed raising taxes on the wealthiest 5% of Minnesotans while protecting the rest of, or the other 95% of Minnesotans. And that's from all forms of taxes, whether it's property tax, income tax, sales tax, or enhanced fees. And so when we look at what that means for the district, if you went with an all-cuts budget, you'd see school districts continuing to lose support. You'd probably see teachers laid off. It would have an undue harmful effect on our hospitals, nursing homes, and other types of long-term care facilities because they rely heavily on many of those public programs to really maintain the quality services that they provide. Similarly, I'm also concerned that if you had an all-cuts budget, you'd lose local funding like local government aid or things that help keep property taxes lower. And so those county services or those city services which provide jobs for people, whether it's maintaining the infrastructure, whether it's police and firefighters, whether it is any number of other support personnel that make our local units of government work, a lot of that funding would be removed, and so those people would be out of work. So I really do feel that our state's economist Tom Stinson had said it correctly when he said if you do a budget resolution through all cuts or all revenue, you have more of a detrimental effect on our state's economy than a balanced approach. And so I just see that if you're going to look at cuts alone, you're really moving a lot of people from being employed to unemployment, and that's really not the direction that we can go at this time.
When you talk about LGA and local government aid and what that means for cities and counties, a lot of your colleagues went around the state last weekend and talked to citizens about what that meant for maybe people on fixed incomes who property taxes go up and they'd be kicked out of their homes, essentially couldn't afford their homes. Are you seeing that in your area?
Absolutely. Property taxes are one of the things that people do talk about quite frequently. And they know that over the last 8 years, property taxes on average statewide have increased by about 75%, or additional $3 billion has been collected through property taxes. And that's because we haven't had any other options. Local units of government have been forced to go and deal with the requirement to deliver services, and they have not had that equal or that fair funding that local government aid really did provide. And so as that was cut, they had to go to the only option that was available, which was property taxes. And so we do see the impacts. It does disproportionately hurt, I think, the low income and the middle income Minnesotans. Really, it does target the middle class. One of the things I did a comparison, if you had two people living in houses of similar value, and one person made $40,000 a year and one person made $400,000 per year, if their property taxes went up by, say, $2,000 a year, that would be an increase of 5% on the one person's ability to pay, whereas it's only 0.5% on the person with the higher income. And so oftentimes the ability to pay or the fairness of property taxes is very regressive. It really does hit people on fixed incomes or the lower half of our property or wage earners in the state of Minnesota disproportionately hard.
Well, as this moves its way through the legislative session, the legislative process, I'm sure we'll hear more about these issues.
Absolutely. Thank you again for taking the time to tune in.
Thank you for watching At the Capitol with Representative Andrew Falk.